La lezione di oggi in realtà è l'unica che non ha, diciamo, come target esclusivamente gli studenti APA, anzi parliamo oggi di uno strumento che abbiamo realizzato nell'ambito di un progetto europeo. No, è la porta che si apre, fantastica. Of course I just do an introduction in Italian, but that will be everything in English. Parliamo di uno strumento che è stato svolto a livello europeo ed è uno strumento formativo indirizzato sia agli studenti accademici che ai professionisti del settore, quindi videomaker, fotografi, coordinatori di dipartimento, sponsoring e fundraising, insomma tutti gli esperti di settore che hanno bisogno di uno strumento di aggiornamento delle competenze in termini di lifelong learning. Il progetto che presentiamo si chiama Inspire ed è un progetto in cui l'Accademia è partner insieme ad altre istituzioni europee di tipo accademico, di tipo organizzativo. Parliamo di PERL ad esempio, che è un'associazione che riunisce le associazioni datoriali dello spettacolo in Europa e ha voluto indagare le competenze specifiche emergenti del settore dello spettacolo, e parliamo di sostenibilità nel senso di green, sostenibilità delle produzioni, cioè come applicare i principi di sostenibilità alla produzione di spettacolo, e queste sono le prime due, diciamo, competenze di cui parlerà principalmente Larry Bush, che è qui con noi oggi. Digitalizzazione, soft skills e gestione, noi l'abbiamo chiamata gestione delle risorse umane, ma non nel senso aziendale del termine, bensì gestione dei gruppi di lavoro in qualsiasi contesto lavorativo. Il tutto declinato al mondo dello spettacolo. La cosa interessante è che il prodotto in uscita di questo progetto è un corso online che è già disponibile in una versione pilot, ma che si può già frequentare tramite una piattaforma che è per l'appunto quella legata al progetto Inspire, poi ci entreremo anche fisicamente. Questa piattaforma ha 5 moduli, ognuno di questi moduli ha una durata ovviamente stimata, perché poi essendo un self-learning tramite una piattaforma uno accede e segue, diciamo, la formazione secondo i propri tempi. Ha una durata di 25 ore, stimata in 25 ore, e al termine di queste 25 ore c'è una certificazione con il riconoscimento di un micro-credential, quindi di un credito accademico che può essere speso all'interno dell'Accademia Teatro alla Scala. Questo sarebbe stato utile per gli studenti eventualmente, o anche nelle accademie che sono partner di questo progetto. Ovviamente questo è il primo step di un processo che mira a coinvolgere poi altre istituzioni, quindi ad allargare il bacino di utenza della certificazione anche ad altre istituzioni. Al termine della presentazione di Larry andremo poi a vedere anche il funzionamento di questa piattaforma, che è molto user friendly e molto semplice da gestire. Io non mi dilungo oltre, anche perché mi ho perso un po' di tempo aspettando le persone, quindi lascio la parola a Larry Bush, che farà una lezione divisa in 2 parti. Una prima parte più focalizzata sul tema della sostenibilità in senso ampio, cioè come inquadriamo il tema della sostenibilità, e una seconda parte invece più applicativa, cioè come il tema della sostenibilità, che è una policy europea condivisa, si va ad applicare al settore dello spettacolo nello specifico. Quindi io accosto la porta e lascio la parola a lei.
Thank you, Umberto. I understood everything. So, my name is Larry Bush, and I just wanted to present myself briefly. I've been working in the event industry, in the theater industry, in the event technology, technical production for more than 40 years, mainly as a lighting designer and in production. Later, from 2000 on, I've been working for a major lighting manufacturer in Belgium, where I had the chance to travel the world and see many different theaters, from Russia to China, just in the United States. So this is given a very interesting part. I am a member of the Austrian Association for Theatre Technology, Theatre Technicians, hence we have our academy, the Academy of the OATHG, where we train technicians. The OATHG is a non-profit association which goal is to support and help performing arts technology. We develop standards. Also, we try to push along the edge of technology that it can improve. We also have a special group that we have different commissions, committees who are specialized on certain areas, stage technology, etc. And since a few years, we are also have a group that has been specializing on sustainability. And without this special group, it would have been impossible to participate in the Inspire project. And in this case, I would also like to thank our specialist and leader of the group, Mrs. Margarete Reichel-Neuwirth, who is very much, I have no electricity here, sorry for the interruption. Anyway, she was very instrumental in developing the applied sustainability. She herself is working in the theater in Vienna, and they're also very engaged in Austria. We have a very closely knit community working already on this part. So today's lecture is not about the environmental effects of the human activity. I assume that you in the audience know about the impacts and the situation, global warming, the loss and degradation of natural ecosystems, the overexploitation of natural resources, as well as the exploitation of people, especially in the global south. It's a little bit restless from the audience. At the same time, we are seeing an unhealthy economic mindset that fuels an ever-growing and unbalanced concentration of financial wealth and greed. This is mostly a result of poor global politics. This leads to disparities and consequences that far exceed what our planet can sustain economically, ecologically, and socially. So this part we will not highlight so much today, because otherwise it doesn't finish. We will be speaking about the role of the performing arts in relation to the learning objectives of Inspire, and how we, as current and future professionals, can develop the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to address challenges related to emerging competences in the cultural and creative industries. We shall focus on sustainable productions and the operation of sustainable performing arts venues. I wrote this sentence, that's why I was reading it, because it's a very core part and the core message of what it's all about. So, culture and statistics. So we would like to know basically where we are. It's very difficult to find statistics, especially in the entire area. Eurostat figures says that the entire culture industry is 8.7 million people in Europe are employed, with a 2.1 million enterprises, and creative arts and entertainment activities, which would be the NACE 90, number 90. This is the employment statistics. In creative arts and entertainment is something like 500,000 enterprises and 600,000 people and 50 billion turnover, which far exceeds theaters. I mean, there's other occupations in it, but to pull out the numbers. But we see, anyway, it's not very small, this number. It's not a marginal sector. And economically, it is strong, but it has a big influence. Because our sector plays a dual role in sustainable development. At the one part, we use and we disperse an impact on the economy. We do influence it on the ecological sense, but also we inspire people. We have an audience, and it is also our role as culture to entice the people to follow, to become more sustainable in their activities. And a third part is also that our sector was affected by the COVID by COVID-19, and there's still some results in audience, etc. It's coming back in the theater world and then performing arts. But still, it was noticed that we have to change in some of our attitudes and become more resilient. But let's look into the policy landscape of green, digital, and beyond. So we have a green transition and a digital transition mainly going on at the moment. And these are not abstract political ideas. It's very concrete, and the European Commission has set clear strategic directions. Like, for example, the European Digital Education Action Plan, that VET graduates must improve and become digitally literate. So why is it important? So why is Inspire important? Inspire addresses environmental, digital, and economical changes. It's not only it encourages innovation and resilience, and it bridges theory and practice. So these are points that we try to follow and to close these holes in the market. So emerging competences. Why sustainability, digital literacy, and entrepreneurship, as well as the social element. In 2021, there was from the Bocconi University in Italy, there was a study sort of looking back to the post-COVID part, and they found out that audience engagement, digital competences, marketing and communication, new management approaches, and fundraising would become very important competences that are needed across the entire field in our industry. If we look at current European occupation profiles for key roles such as production managers, set designers, stage directors, and facility managers, we notice something important. Green, environmental, entrepreneurial competences, digital competences are basically missing. I mean, we learn all about nice constructions, about methods, how to build sets, but in a lot of cases, we didn't find so many information. There was not so much information given to the students. I think all can agree on that. We did some field research in Austria, talking to the universities, and many of the young people had to admit also that this does not exist yet in their curriculum. So to respond to this, these are the basic competences and skills that the Inspire project will focus on. The sustainability, structured on the European Commission's Green Comp framework, translates to eco-design, circular economy, greenhouse gas measurements, social sustainable working practices. In the second, we have the digital skills, structured under the DIG-COMP framework, safe digital environments, digital archiving, data management, leading digital transformation within cultural organizations. And the third part would be the entrepreneurship, business model development, strategic thinking, opportunity recognition, audience development, and innovative fundraising approaches. And then also very important are social skills, cooperation, team leading, to mention sustainable management, coaching methods, resilience, and change management. And finally, we have another issue that is important to speak about, and I will explain later how this is to be understood. The shift from footprint to handprint. Traditionally, sustainability focuses on reducing negative impact, lowering energy use, reducing waste, minimizing emissions. And that would be the footprint. But handprint is far more. I mean, Performing arts can do much, much more because we have the potential through education, artistic innovation. Hello. Hi. Social. Hi. No problem. We're already in the middle of the lecture, so please come in. But you can sign in the intermission, so we have some time. So I was just in the basic introduction part. So you haven't missed too much. Basically explaining going from footprint in the sustainability to handprint. Handprint that is far more. So the future professionals in the performing arts must therefore be capable not only of reducing harm, but actively shaping a more sustainable and resilient society. So this is one of the important parts. Let me just, I don't know if we got to the beginning, if you talked about this in the Italian version.
No, not
the English
today,
version
not
here.
today, so you can go on in English, yes.
Okay. So Inspire basically, as an Erasmus Plus project for a net positive performing arts sector, has brought together three institutions from the higher education and the vocational education, also the Accademia alla Scala, and our academy in the OETHG in Austria, and 8 labor market actors in 6 countries. So it is a pan-European project. It should connect education with the real labor market needs. So, you know, not discussing theoretical ideas, but to bring information here that you can really use in the future, in your future jobs. And on BQF level 5, this is the result, the education. It's a bridge between vocational and higher education. So this is the standard on which it should be. And as I already mentioned, it is for set designers, production managers, stage technicians, directors, artistic directors, cultural facility managers, just to mention a few from this part. Maybe just a short question. May I ask which field you are studying in the Accademia?
We're studying, I don't know how to translate it properly in English, but I think
In Italian?
allestimento scenico.
Technical theater. So production manager. Okay, very good. I mentioned in the beginning, I've been working many years in technical theater, technical production, and technical theater management, also as a lighting designer. So all very well known. So this was the introduction to some basic ideas that are meant on. We will now, in the first part, speak about sustainability, principles, evolution, and the cultural relevance. Who has been, have you been already thinking about sustainability in the theater?
Yeah, we discussed it like with some professor, but not like as a subject, just like
a topic, yes?
Yeah, just conversation, not a topic of the lesson.
Okay, good. Excellent, so that's already very good. In this lecture, we will not go into the effects of the human imprint, the Anthropocene, what we do with the. We were speaking now what performing arts can do, and some basics, in sustainability. What do we understand as sustainability? Sustainability is not only about greening the planet or so, about the greenhouse gas and temperature warning. It's far more. Sustainability targets 3 major objectives. It is the economic development is important. Environmental protection is important, and social well-being. It doesn't make sense, to find something where you, where the economy would break down or whatever, disappear. So it's about balancing these objectives. So, and then there's some principles. The principles are intergenerational equity. This means that decisions we take now, today, they must not compromise the opportunities and resources available for future generations. In practical terms, if we overuse natural resources, create excessive waste, or damage ecosystems, we reduce the possibilities for those who come after us, and sustainability therefore requires long-term thinking and not short-term gain. So this is a very important item. The second principle is the integration of dimensions. Economic development, environmental protection, and social cohesion cannot be treated separately. They must be combined into coherent policies and practices that support balanced progress. For example, in the performing arts sector, a production should not only be financially successful, but it also should minimize environmental impact and ensure fair working conditions. True sustainability connects all three dimensions. Sometimes in the theater, we are not very kind to the people who are employed and working therein, and long hours and sometimes also very rude manners have appeared, and this is not always very good. I think this is all the same throughout the different areas. And the third principle is caution and responsibility. This means that preventive action must be taken when environmental risks are identified, even if full scientific certainty is not yet available. Let's say we have the feeling what we're doing might not be good, then it is better not to do it. And then why does it matter to the performing arts? Well, basically, performing arts are still one of the larger employers in the creative world. Just as an example, I got a figure here from Powerful Thinking, a website that basically puts power for summer festivals. In the UK alone, the summer festivals, summer music festivals, emit 100,000 tons of CO2, 23,500 tons of waste, and they consume 5 million liters of diesel annually for the generators, for example. So this is quite some amount. So this leads us to the triple bottom line, as it is named, the environmental, social, and economic pillars. So all these three must be integrated and not isolated. The social sustainability, the economic sustainability, and environmental sustainability. And only these three in here guarantee a sustainable development. Okay. So what does it mean? Environmental, the performing arts, it means improving energy efficiency, for example, in venues, reducing waste in set construction, or applying eco-design principles in scenography and costume production. I will explain this later. Social pillar addresses the working conditions, diversity, inclusion, and well-being. So on stage and within teams, fair wages for artists and technicians, safe working environments, and accessibilities for audience. And the economic pillar ensures a long-term economic viability without compromising regeneration and responsibility. It says, okay, circular economy approaches, resource efficiency, all these are important. But above all, we also should take a look at the role that culture plays. Because performing art is not only entertainment. Performing art educates, it inspires, and shapes social awareness. This means that we are not only managing resources, we are influencing how society understands sustainability. Is that clear? This is the important part. This complexity, for the different roles of culture to the other pillars, this complexity is precisely why professional competences in sustainability are so important for the future of our sector. Performing arts has a great role to play. I just wanted to show briefly the timeline and sustainability milestones. In 1987, These are not all of the milestones, but we start here in 1987 with the Brundtland Report for the United Nations, Our Common Future. And here some of the first elements were developed. Important in 2000, the Millennium Development Goals of the United Nations, which resulted in the 17 SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, and then 2019 in the European Green Deal. So we see here, I would say, 40 years of knowing what's going on, and movements front and back. There's something like a procession. It's a, you know, where it was a procession in Belgium. I remember they do 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So, but slowly you come along to the future. Frameworks. There's a basic set of frameworks that have been set up, policies, legislation, and standards that help guide us to a sustainable future. So this is in general. So the first one would be the SDGs from the by the United Nations that focus on the three P's: people, planet, and prosperity. And within these 17 SDGs, you will see here different areas that are covered: the planet, the water, etc., sustainable cities, equality. So policies are important because they answer the question, where are we going? These are political decisions. In 2019, the European Union launched the Green Deal. The Green Deal is important. It's the most ambitious roadmap for climate and sustainability. Its central aim is to make Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. Still some time to go, but it comes. And the EU should cut emissions by at least 55% until 2030. Difficult to reach. And this is essential to give an idea where we want to head to. But, as always, it's nice to say we want to do something, but you need a legislation, you need laws, and you need regulations. And the European climate law puts all this in a sort of central legal framework. And from this European climate law, that is like a framework on top, many different legal instruments have spawned. For example, like eco-design, which is, for example, for lighting fixtures, etc. Reporting standards that have to be done. Here we see some more like Maritime Export, Repower EU, Critical Raw Materials Act, Methane Regulation. These are all separate laws that come into effect on the one hand from the they're released by the European Parliament, and then they have to be moved into the local, in the country, the nations of the European Union. So it takes some time till they become active. But the legislation answers the question, what must we do? So where do we want to go? And now what do we have to do? That is all very nice, but there's one part still again missing. That is the standards. Standards are important because they tell us how to implement this, how to implement these regulations in practice. And I have here like the 3 most important ISO regulations that are at the moment existing. That is the EN 1401, Environmental Management Systems. I will come to that one later. 5001 Energy Management, which is for heating, climate. And then there's the most recent one, is an ISO for event sustainability. This is more for the event area, for the big, for example, to just had the Olympics, so that should be a sustainable event also. In Austria, many theaters have been using the from the European Union developed system, is EMAS. EMAS is the Eco Management and Audit Scheme. It's an official management system that has been proposed. Some theaters in Austria are already being, for example, the theaters in Lower Austria, it's a district, they follow EMAS and have EMAS signs, they are approved by EMAS. Over 4,500 organizations in Europe are registered with EMAS. And it signals a high level of environmental commitment. And this is important sometimes for the public funding. So the government says, okay, you need to have an EMAS certification to receive continued funding. But our sector is a bit special, so there's some sector-specific standards. They're not on such a, how should I say, official level, and they are mainly done by very active people out of our industry. The first one would be the Theatre Green Book, maybe. I would like to highlight here. The Theatre Green Book was developed by a group of by Bureau Happold and the Arts Council in England. So it comes from England. It was some, I would say, 5 or 10 years ago that they started this. And it is presented in 3 volumes: sustainable productions, sustainable buildings, and sustainable operations. So in these 3 fields, and we will use this, we'll come back to this later a bit. This gives a lot of helpful tools and information, and they have a website, and they also have webinars, and a whole amount of information that you can receive there. They have very valuable Excel formats where you can track for a production or for your building or your operations. You can check how you are doing sustainability-wise. Another important tool is Julie's Bicycle. It's also came in the UK. But it was also around the COVID time. This is basically a tool to measure your carbon footprint and your sustainability. There are tools in there, like, for example, the business travel related to the production of the materials you use. On another level is in Broadway, they have a Green Alliance that gives some information. These are all, if you put them into Google, you'll find them on the internet. And then by Pearl, this is the Association for business in our performing arts world. They have the Cookbook for Cultural Managers, which where you can find a wealth on some information, mainly for the management part of the performing arts. Good. So far we have the basics. But now, what do we do in general? Now, this is not only targeted to our performing arts. It is important to have strategic planning and reporting sustainability. Now, what does that have to be? Why does it play such a role? Many organizations today, they speak about sustainability, and I think every company says, okay, we're sustainable, we're green, thing. But you need to have a proof of it, and that's why it is important to define, to measure, and to have actionable commitments. To have a real point. We will see this later throughout the rest of the speaking about sustainability. So these parts have to be clearly articulated in the organization's objectives. You have to have concrete actions, integrated into day-to-day management processes, and communicated to your stakeholders. And there's a tool, it's the ESG model. ESG model is for cultural organizations, and we'll ask now, what is ESG? It's the environmental, social, and governance. Maybe just to explain where this comes from, I'll leave it here without the what it is underneath. 1977, General Motors was in South Africa, and there was on the board was a reverend, Afro-American reverend, Mr. Sullivan. And General Motors, the largest car manufacturer at the time, they were producing in South Africa at the time of the apartheid regime. So it was only white people counted, people of color were, and they were allowed to work at the company. And he said, no, this is something that's not possible. We don't want to have this. And General Motors has to do something for their workers. And this code of conduct he set up with some 10 points in it. He managed also to convince other US companies who were active at the time to follow the rule. So this was very, very important. So he said, governance, social governance is important. I mean, at the same time, you have in the US, you have 1970s, a long time ago. Years ago, you had a Milton Friedman who was saying the only thing companies have to do is make money. Make money, as much money as you can. And now we see this again today. Things come back. It always takes a half century cycle. Milton Friedman and the Chicago Boys, as they were named. If you ever heard of in Chile, there was the Allende regime, and then Mr. Pinochet came along, and then they returned all the economy to make more money and not think about people. But anyway, in towards the end of the 20th century, last century, 1900, there were people coming along and saying, oh, yeah, we have to have something like social capital. There were sociologists. There was also an entrepreneur, John Elkington, who had the idea of the triple bottom line. We remember from the beginning the 3 pillars, social, environmental, ecological. He said this has to be in balance because otherwise we're not doing business very well. And with the time, it appeared that more people, came along and said, okay, no, this is good. That when companies not only think about profits, but also about the people working, this gives a better feeling. And there's like the 10 best companies I'd like to work for. So it's not only, you're forced into a cubicle and you have to work. So this improved the atmosphere of the company, the standing of the company, how they were represented. But come along COVID, and then there was some backlash, and then especially in the United States, some groups argue that ESG mixes too much with ideology, and the companies should follow more investing, and that's more important. Yeah, so that goes. That goes again in between, and there's still discussions. But we in Inspire nevertheless see the ESG model as important. So here we have it. Manage environmental impact. What does it mean for a theater or performing arts organization? Environmental. Adopting energy efficient lighting systems, for example, designing or constructing sets using sustainable materials, measuring and reducing carbon footprint of production, developing clear waste reduction strategies, These are all parts that we can do in the environmental area. Then we have the social, promote social responsibility. Focuses on the people, working conditions. So in the performing arts, fair contracts, safe working environment for artists, technicians, and staff. Inclusively casting, hiring and hiring, diversity in the society. Accessible venues and programming for audiences with different needs. For example, in Vienna, in the musical theaters, normally musicals, a lot of effects, they have now sort of relaxed production, especially for people with specific needs, autism and other problems. So this is they're more quiet, so less pyrotechnics, less effects, less flashing lights, no stroboscopic lights. Gives a very nice, different view of a performance. Engagement with local communities for education and outreach, also very important for our performing arts. And then we have governance. Ensure transparent, ethical governance. What does that mean for theatre? Clear responsibilities for sustainability at leadership level, transparent budgeting and resource allocation, ethical conduct and anti-corruption measures, and open communication with funders, employers, partners, and audience, so with all the stakeholders. So this is also important in the governance field. And all these items are to be reported. To be reported, what does that mean? Why report it all? Why write it down? It increases transparency. If you write something, you have to commit to it. It builds trust with funders, partners, and audiences. Because you say, okay, it is written and you have to live to it, you know? Because anything that is said, okay, it's nice, but once it's written, it supports organizational learning and reinforces long-term credibility. And so we see sustainable reporting in this field. What else? The real risk we have to avoid is greenwashing. Vague statements like eco-friendly production. They don't mean anything. I mean, what is it? You need to define clear targets, measurable indicators, verifiable results, and honest acknowledgement of challenges. That is also important. Because if we say, it is difficult to reach a goal, we are not quite there yet, these are the challenges, it is an honest communication, not saying everything is great, you know, we are the greatest. No, we have to go step by step into it. Transparency is not a compliance exercise, it's a strategy for building trust. We show our goals, our numbers, our lessons learned. People are will be far more likely to believe us, support us, and continue with us on the sustainable journey. So, concluding message of this first part, sustainability must be planned, measured, and reported, not merely declared. In the performing arts, strategic sustainability planning is not bureaucracy, it is a leadership tool that strengthens resilience, credibility, funding opportunities, and long-term viability. Professionals who understand ESG will guide cultural organizations through green and digital transitions ahead, and our program Inspire provides a path to this mythology, the structure and the competence making this possible, enabling you to turn principles into practice and to move decisively from awareness. We are aware, but we also have to set actions. So, what is the key insight which may influence the way you think about sustainability, performing arts production, and your professional role? This question is for you. The floor is now yours. Have you thought about this on your journey?
We once talked about this with one of our professors because come si dice?
Scenotecnico, benissimo.
Scenotecnico.
Sì.
Because we were doing like a scenotechnic lesson,
Yes.
and we asked the professor like if using certain type of materials that then you don't know if they will be used again is kind of a waste. And so he showed us, but right now I don't remember the name of the materials, and he said like that right now you can have a certain look that you can use like for creating stuff, but the material is not like for wood or something like that, so it's a little bit more eco-friendly. We discussed about this.
Oh, very good. It's a big discussion in the theaters. I just had this week. We had some items. I might come to that later. Normally, this would have been our first part where we say, okay, we did some of the general parts, discuss. If you have any questions or anything you would like to discuss or that you find more interesting in the parts.
In terms of inspiring performances about contents of engagement, I think that there is a big challenge now.
Yes, there is a big challenge. That will come a little bit later in the when we come to the application of sustainable methods. And we're creating sustainable productions and operating sustainable venues, and how to go about that. We will come to this part. Good. Shall we continue? I think it's okay. You're okay? Good. So this is now the second part of the creating sustainable productions and operating sustainable venues. So the importance. So in the first part now, we were speaking a little bit about the let's say the big ideas, the policy and standards and what exists, so that you know that this is there. But we'd like to shift from these principles now more to practice. So why does sustainability matter in the performing arts? And why shall it matter right now? The answer is straightforward. We have an environmental reality. A lot of it, we have greenhouse gas emissions. They come from our buildings, from the theaters, and here, just along this workshops is very big, and the theater itself in the city center, the Scala is also a big building, and it uses a lot of heating and possibly cooling and lighting, and also audience travel, because people come from all over to see a performance in the opera, and these are impacts that we have on the environment also. Sets are built from new materials. They have a higher carbon footprint, higher effect than reuse or recycle components. Sometimes they're not recycled, but they're built, used, discarded in your economy. Also not good. So these are things that we have to think about. The scale of the problem. The scale, so this is the reality, and the scale is energy use, audience, touring, travel, materials and waste. Audience expectations. The audience expects today to hear something about environment also, about how we take care of it. We have European policy context. We've spoken about that. But we also have a creative opportunity. Eco-scenography, rehearsal and design tools that reduce travel, digital tools. And then designer, rethinking materials. So we will come to that also. And then there's also an economic case. There is possibilities to save and to improve the economy through sustainability, reusing circular processes. If we can gain back materials, etc. So we will look now at the first part, the sustainable buildings. The buildings are one of our largest emitters. Julie's Bicycle in England has found that 80% of the total reported carbon emissions in the performing arts, they come from the buildings. And the Theatre Green Book by the Bureau of Apple, they look at the buildings and have found some operational items. So it's lean, clean, and green are the main points. Lean means reducing how much energy the building needs. This is achieved, for example, through improving the building envelope. Clean would mean making the building use less energy through more efficient equipment and better controls. Upgrading the lighting, etc. And then green, in the final end, would be using renewable energy sources, photovoltaic sources, heat pumps, etc. Throughout our buildings, we have three major types of buildings: historic buildings that we see from the two centuries ago, from the 1900s, maybe even older, some older theaters in Italy. We have mid-century buildings that were built like in the 1960s, often post-Second World War, for example, when materials were not so good, and these are deteriorating. And then we have larger buildings after the 1990s. They are modern, but also need improvements. So these are the building types we would have to look at. Historic buildings, naturally, they also have the problem that they have a heritage building, so you have to take care of the city, of the view of the city, etc. So here's one example of what we have to look at: insulation, the floors, the windows, the walls, the roofs, entrances. All these areas are key points where we can improve the efficiency of the building. Sometimes the doors are not, are not tight, and there's simple glass on the wall, not insulated walls. We have the high stage tower, where also a lot of energy can be lost. Efficient services: heating, cooling, lighting. Mainly our big buildings, they're used very little. I mean, theater performance is 2 hours, 2.5 hours. If you play a Wagner, 5 hours. But the rest of the time, the buildings are not really occupied. The audience area is empty. The hallways are empty. They're lit. If you take, for example, the Paris Opera, it's only a very small part is stage and audience, and the rest is all the entree and. So we need intelligent systems, intelligent control systems, heating and cooling optimized. You cannot let the building go cold, because then it freezes out, and then it takes a lot more energy to get it back to temperature. But we have to find intelligent ways of controlling it, etc. LED lighting, lifts, the elevators, for example, are very large energy uses in the theater, especially in hot water. So you need control systems that when the audience is in the house, that you have enough water. When the artists are in the house and they need to shower after performance, that they have ways. For example, switching to LED lights, that saves a lot of energy. Like this here, yes, it looks like LED. But there's still a lot of places where you see old lighting from the past in there. And then another possibility would be regenerating, part is solar panels. Solar panels are also a discussion in cities where you have sort of a vista on the city. We were just recently, we had a meeting of the directors in Austria. For example, in Salzburg, they're refurbishing the festival hall. And it's very, very strict. There's 35 people on the who are sort of conserving the old view of the city. And they're like, no solar panels, no, 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 no. So the managing director there, he said yes, but as time will go on, it will become a must to save energy when the temperatures go up. So we will have to harvest the energy that we can have. I mean, it's clear. Solar energy will not take care of the time during the performance, but during the day we have a lot of energy we use to ventilate the house, etc. These are technical issues that we can use for theater, but they have to be checked by situation, by specialists. Also, biodiversity and water. Water conservation is an important part. Sometimes we can use rainwater, sometimes we can use the gray water it's not so polluted, for example, to flush toilets, etc. So you have some sort of system to get it back. And biodiversity is also an issue. Perhaps some green plants on the roof, on flat roofs when they exist. This is a possibility. Or like the state opera in Vienna, they have a beehive on the roof, and they have a beekeeper, external, and you get honey from the state opera. Very nice. Actually, there's some other buildings in Vienna that where they have bees and keep bees in the city. The quality of the honey coming in from in the city is far better than from the countryside. Wow. Okay. Why? Because there's no agriculture going on, and there's no pesticides being brought into the nature. It's flower gardens. You have the city parks, and there's the trees. So there's trees all around the ring. So it's chestnut trees, and they blossom. So the bees find always something to where they can gather the honey, and it's a far better quality. Very interesting. I didn't know that one either. Just found it out speaking with the people. So this was the buildings where we can save, where we can be sustainable, but also in our day-to-day operations, we have to be sustainable. The idea is to use less, choose better, and reuse or recycle whenever possible. So where is that? Paper and digital operations matter. You can reduce paper through digital tickets, online programs, all the paper that is printed in the theater. So when you, for example, come into the theater, you have paper hanging on the wall everywhere. Maybe some digital information boards or other form could be useful to know what's going on. But then on the other hand, it has to be thoughtful. We have to be thoughtful because also data storage and digital needs information, and it should, data should be compressed or deleted when you don't need it anymore. Because cloud storages, they feel infinite, but they need power. So servers and computers use real energy. Food and catering, that is an important part in a lot of places. On the one hand, to look more to plant-based options for food at the canteen, local sourcing and seasonable use of products, reduce food waste. There's a way to track what is being served at the canteens to say, okay, when you go about that intelligently, you can avoid the size of the portions, for example. Sometimes you get big portions, nobody can eat it, and then people can say, okay, I want to have a smaller portion. So it's not predefined. So you don't have to throw away the food. And then it goes all the way down to the cups, paper cups, plastic cups. In the hotel I was, they have they have a little thing so you get some water, but it's all plastic cups, so you throw away your plastic cups. Methods there to maybe reuse. Some years ago, we were in the Paris Opera, and spoke with the sustainability manager at the time. They were doing a study on where they can become more sustainable. And if you take all the paper cups that they use in the opera, so you have the water machine, and you take the water, dancers, one sip, and then they have to go back out to the stage and throw away the cup. All the cups, when you put them together, after 1 year, it's the height of the Eiffel Tower. So a big amount of cups just alone in the Paris Opera. Travel and transport is another field where you think in the operations. We move around a lot, send the people out. The audience comes in. So here are also issues to look at. And then you have we have waste management to try to see where you can save, recycle. You have a contractor taking back the material, but see that they don't throw it somewhere into the whatever places. And then finally, housekeeping, dressing rooms, how you have towels, etc. Cold washing laundry. That's a topic. That's interesting. Cold washing laundry. We have a company, Zoe THG. I was explaining at the beginning with an association. We also have a trade show, and one of the companies that was exhibiting, they have a device that washes the laundry with ozone. 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 You've heard the ozone layer. That is an aggressive form of oxygen. So it splits its simpler form. I'm not a chemist, so I can tell you that. And this machine, this little box that you have in front, generates the ozone, and you put it in front, it goes into the washing machine, and you do not need a detergent. Okay? And it works. At least I haven't tried it. But I spoke in Graz in the city theater. The responsible person for the wardrobe uses the system, and she was like praising it highly. That it's really very good. And so they also have some ecologically sourced detergent. It's like a mild soap with a bit of a scent, so that you have a bit of a scent of being washed. Because otherwise the actors don't believe that it's simply washed. Because what is also nice, it has a neutral, doesn't have any smell to it. So this is so they've been saving a lot with this machine. And they use it also for sort of a dry cleaning for costumes. I don't know if you work with the costume department.
We have some lessons.
You had some lessons, yeah? So a lot of theaters use pure vodka instead of dry cleaning. Take some of the that are difficult to wash. Because a lot of costumes you can't put them in the washing machine. And you can't put them to the dry cleaning because otherwise, if you give it out of house, and dry cleaning is not good either because they use a lot of chemicals. Ozone cleaning systems, or sometimes they use vodka to clean costumes. Okay, but also you have refillable soaps without palm oil, things like that. They also add up. I just wanted to speak about the Vienna State Opera in case you look to the website of Vienna State Opera. So they also have rooftop solar panels in 2025 they put up there. They have changed the entire building to, I couldn't put the statement underneath because it didn't fit on the screen, but I will tell you what they do. They have controlled lighting system with LEDs so that when you leave a room, corridors, lights go on and off. They have resource use. They work with recycle partners, discard materials, so they've gone through great lengths on that. It's still evolving. It's located centrally, so they have mobility. Also, the people have to go to the workshop, and etc. They are, convinced to use public transport or bicycle. to the central workshop or also the rehearsal stage to start. And they review this every year. And the Opera Ball, the famous Opera Ball in Vienna, is also has been declared to a sustainable event, green event, and is monitored and being prepared. So they try to follow these rules. So they've been taking this onto their case. Eco-design principles for the performing arts. Eco-design. What is eco-design? Sounds nice. But it's important. It's for the designers. Think differently. That is the main part of it. So now you think, okay, we'll make something beautiful. We'll make a grand stage, 14 meters high, set, I don't know, from wall to wall, as big as possible, and we cover everything in plastic. No, think, can I do it without it on stage? Is that really important for our production? I know this is less for the technical part in the theater, but for the artistic part. Can I use or adapt something from storage that exists? Already years ago, we did a production using old walls, repainting the walls. They were nice concrete walls, sort of Juneri. Not even, yes. What they did was they just took, the plastering of the concrete, of raw concrete wall, made a set of it, set flats for the set. It was a light gray, so we kind of repainted dark gray. We did a production with that one. Only with a part, because it was from the opera stage, and we did on the drama theater stage, which is a little bit smaller, so we only need 3 or 4 walls. Can I make it from salvaged materials? Can we reuse items? Can we look what we have? Also important. Sometimes budget helps. Declining budgets in the theater helps, and like famous director, and became famous. His first production, I still remember, we did with old clothes. That was the set, and they were like in heaps on the stage there. It was in a smaller stage, and it was quite impressive. Okay, and he had like a budget of 2,000 euros or so in 2 days. Calculated to today's 20,000 shillings at the time, so around 2,000 euros. Something they would not even think about when they became famous, because I think maybe just one part of the set that the set designer does costs that amount of money. But he works also for larger stages, big opera houses. And if you can't, maybe we need some good materials. What are good materials? This we can discuss. And if we don't find any solution, the last question we ask ourselves is this worth harming the planet? Is this artistic idea? Is it really good to say, we need, I don't know, how many cubic meters of styrofoam, aluminum, whatever. And the other part of production is we have to move from a linear economy. Linear economy until now was taking raw materials from the earth, building a set, putting it on the stage, and then throwing it away. I know in the opera sometimes you keep sets for a very long time and then they throw them away. We have to come to a circular economy of reuse and recycle.
So should I ask you from the previous slide, what is a good material?
Good materials. I just have to think, do I come there later? I started some of the slides.
Sorry.
These are materials that are like chemical materials. Polystyrol, this white stuff, that makes all the little sort of snowflakes when you cut it. I don't know. What do you call it?
Yes, we know in Italian.
You know in Italian what it is. They use it to insulate buildings, for example. And there are alternatives for that. I just saw a project that Salzburg Festival was doing in this meeting last week. They started this with a technical school in the area there, and they use the bark of wood, and then it becomes like a foam. It's like a foam, and then they can. The idea is they're still in trial period, and it's not an industrial amounts. Then they can cut these sort of surfaces. When you have like a sort of a wave surface. And for this year's production in the festival, they decided not to use the polysterol, but instead to do it in a wood. So the carpenters had more work to build these sort of sloping surfaces, because you cut away a lot and it gets discarded. So you'll see you need more of the material even when it's on stage. So this is, for example, a good and a bad example. Good material, wood that is sort of improved and not from the rainforest. Another bad materials would be using, for example, aluminum. Aluminum needs a lot of energy, from the mountain, setting it on the stage, putting it into if it's just used to support something. And if you, then you throw it away, it's too bad. Or using steel, virgin steel. It's not really, so if you have the possibility to recycle steel, you get the information.
Thank you.
So these are just some of the materials that are for good or for bad. I know I had a whole hierarchy of materials, but I cut this out of this part.
Sorry,
But it comes in the Inspire course itself. But that's 35 hours. We only have 3. No, it's 70 hours actually, because I'm doing 2 modules. So the productions need to move from eco-scenography, a new philosophy for design. This is Tanja Bear. She is an Austrian who lives in Australia. To confuse, so there's no kangaroos in Austria. Tanja Bear, she wrote some, let's say, theoretical ideas on this, but also done some practical work and highlight practical eco-scenography. The living stage is one project that she did, but it's more of an idea, more of a concept. Living stage, plants are growing on the stage. The audience can nibble from it, and then at the end they can take the set with them. The vegetables growing on the stage. It's a little bit of a performance around it. But interesting is co-creation. It's one of the parts of it. 3 C's. That's what she's really going about. It's working with local materials, skills, and communities from the very start. Instead of importing everything, the designer engages in what already exists in the place where the work is made. Celebration, using the stage itself to show sustainable ideas in action. Sustainability becomes part of the creative language. So this is, embedded deeply into the system. You cannot do this for every performance. And circulation. It's planning for what happens after the show. So already when you are setting up, you're doing your set, you think, what becomes at the end? What is the future of the set? How can it be used? Maybe you can make an amusement park of the set. So you have some nice sculptures on it. You can put it somewhere. It's a natural system. Maybe just some of the important parts that you think of. It's the use of materials. Which materials do you use? Manufacturing methods is also important. Modular design, standard parts, etc. 3D printing could be also could help reduce waste. If you have certain items. There's research also being done in that part. The use of standard parts for set design. There's like risers and the parts that are used. transportability, thinking how you can move your sets around, or your decors around, your scenography, transporting by truck. The reuse, deconstruction, that you can deconstruct it, and also that you look at health and safety. I mean, for example, there's paints that are hazardous for humans, not to insist to use these paints or these procedures, and maybe better solutions. So we should minimize the environmental impact, but at the same time keep artistic integrity. That is important. We do not want to. We want to keep a balance of both. For example, the costumes. Costumes use a lot. We have the costume director also, the South Professional speaking. You can't do everything out of what you have on storage. Sometimes you do need to have new costumes. But the textile industry is one of the largest emitters of a lot of users of carbon footprint and harm to the environment, just because of the production methods. Fast fashion, one of the words that are there. You need a lot of water to produce cotton, and poor quality gets thrown away in last minute. Think about the right time for buying your costumes, you know, or costume materials when you're sourcing. You know, not just last minute. It requires to think ahead and pre-plan. And also eco-design for lighting, sound, for example. Lighting, you have LED lighting. LED lighting, this is maybe one item. You save a lot of energy with the LED luminaires that now are existing. But it's also equally discussed, because our luminaires are not on all the time in theater. Another problem is that when the lights are powered on, the LED lights, for standby, each one of these luminaires uses, I don't know, 5, 10 watts or so. And if you have 100 luminaires, it's already pulling constantly, all the time, power. With the traditional lights, you have one big dimmer that only has one computer running. So because each of these little luminaires has multiple calculation machines inside, multiple computers. And the lights are off, and the light stays off. And also, if you have a lot of lights in a house, you say, okay, I like the quality of the halogen light. I prefer the LEDs are getting better. It's maybe not necessary to throw it out and buy it and say, okay, we don't need this anymore. Theaters like the Schauspielhaus in Hamburg, they've been returning back to using on stage halogen light, and they've been buying the lighting are there. They've been buying the fixtures from old fixtures they can get their hands on with halogen lamps inside, just because they like the quality of the light. It's an artistic decision. For sound, for example, rechargeable batteries on mobile microphones, you can save a lot. Orchestras, instead of paper, using digital scores. I don't know how. I see some orchestras already coming with the tablet, and they have a digital score in it. It's also a possibility. Good. There's one thing I just wanted to say, the French Declaration of Eco-Scenography. In France, the Union des Scenographes, they have released recently a paper, because what is the problem if I want to reuse scenographic elements? Or what are the problems that can come up? Any idea? There's problems? Yes? No? Okay. The problems are, who owns the rights of this? We're speaking about intellectual property. And if you take somebody's work, okay, I have a nice boss, and I give it to somebody else, how is it acknowledged? So they said that we acknowledge the possibility to use it, to reuse it. It's copyright clauses. They have said ethical obligations. So the producers cannot just take the set from somebody and give it to somebody else and say, okay, you can reuse the walls and pictures and the nice things that have been made. Also, one of the restraints that's currently also being discussed, especially in Germany and our area, is who is responsible in case something breaks or there's a technical accident happening. It's about liability, and it's all these clauses more technical. And then there's also some because it's public entities normally in the theater who have the theaters. They say, now this is government property. If you sell it to somebody else, this is not allowed. So these things all have to be sorted out. But the eco-scenography is already this French declaration is already helping to. Is an improvement and a way out on the path. So competences for eco-design. What do we find in the Inspire program? Set designers will find information for eco-design, sustainable material selection. There's the answer for your question. We have lists of materials, also for costume department, for the paints that can be used. Circular design thinking, and also stakeholder communications, because you have to, be able to speak and to inform other people what you have been doing. For production managers, green procurement, sustainability requirements into contracts, budgets, etc. There's some tricks that have to be learned on that. Life cycle management, how to track how the materials are used. And then also data collection and reporting, production calculator to measure, document environmental. Yes. So this is very nice, so we know how to do it. But we have to integrate sustainable production methods and operation into traditional production management for performing arts venues. And make sustainability the default. Okay, we're good, we're of goodwill, we want to be sustainable. Oh, nice. But nothing will change. Goodwill is maybe a first step, but it's not there yet. And this is something we have to start on with. Start at the beginning. You have to set the goals. What do you want to reach? So this is one of the first parts. And we have to look what we do. Each production pretty much has a life cycle. This is from the Green Book. They have such nice pictures. They have such nice images. I don't know if you will distribute the slides afterwards, or if that is kept. I don't know if you distribute material for people over here.
No.
Okay. No, it's just questions. It's basically, you'll find it back in the Inspire program also. So the theater production has a life cycle, and it starts with the invitation, the partners, the creative team, the artists who come in. You have to communicate that in the beginning. We think of a production, and then you say, okay, this is to be a green production. And it's being done because it's just so recent this week. Salzburg, they have a side letter to the contracts that they have with the directors and the set designers, and they have to sign that they will take sustainability and accept that the theater wants to have sustainable productions. The budget, the schedules, the concept meetings, all here. You have discussions that you will have to communicate between the production team, the technical production team, and the theater and the artists, what it is about and how to get there. Then you have the procurement and the buying when it comes to sourcing the materials you need. Also here, you look to local, reused, certified, sustainable materials. You have to keep the workshops aligned. During the rehearsals, performances, looking to the energy that you need, turning off equipment when you don't need it in the rehearsal. All these are also parts of sustainable operations, of sustainability. And then you have the show. Normally everything has been decided up to here. And the show leaves the theater, might go on tour. And then you have disposal. Now, it shouldn't be disposal to the dump, but it should be disposal that can go back into the circle. And what is very important is also at the end of the production to have a review, maybe, to say what you want to be, how did it go? And it's a collaboration. It's a collaborative effort. You have to work together. It is not something that can be done by one person alone. You might have a sustainability manager. I don't know. Does the opera, the opera, the Scala, does it have a sustainability manager?
They do.
They do?
You have a unit which takes care of let's say, the wall facilities of the building.
The facility itself.
Yes, but also in the production, because actually La Scala is part of the Theatre Green Book project. So they are in since many years. They've been hosting conferences and so on. And there is a unit who takes care of these aspects formally.
Yeah, very good.
Well, there is no really a sustainability manager appointed, but there is an office which is dealing with the building facilities, which is taking care of these aspects.
Okay. Good. So, the production cycle. Do you have any questions so far? No. Good. So we come to the sort of final stretch of the sustainability, because, as I said, reporting is important, measuring is important, doing is important. But we also have to integrate sustainability across all the stakeholders of performing arts production. As I said, this also is a course that has to do for management. So once we've been able to let's say, have a green production and a green, to have a sustainable production and keep all these measures inside, it is important to introduce sustainability to the other people. It is a human challenge. So how do we engage all the stakeholders that they, take part of it? So the first thing would be to start where the motivation exists. You have people who are interested, and to bring together a group, the technical department, the artistic department, front of house is important, the producers. The idea is, not to form a separate committee, but to make sustainability part of everyday decision making. Skeptics. When it starts in the theater, you will have a lot of people in the technical department, in the management department, that actually say, who the hell needs sustainability? It's just, it's okay anyway. It's been working now for so long, and they're not really interested to do something. But we have seen that in the theaters, and the example that the employees and the people working there they become interested, that they say, okay, I have an idea, this is, there's better ways of becoming more, becoming better and improving because they, they gain the idea and find it interesting to support this. And what is also important is that a green team, it's a name, that they meet regularly to discuss and share new ideas. Maybe not only in the theater, but also outside of the theater. We have, in Austria, we have for our theater group, we have we use Basecamp that they can share their ideas, they meet regularly. From management, technical areas, from the, we also have the sort of sustainability managers, people who are responsible, because once you are approved by EMAS or there's an Austrian green theater sign of approval was introduced during the ecological party was in the government. You have to have somebody who's managing this because they have to be renewed every once in a while. These people meet together and discuss items. There's a group now, they're working on the Green Stage EU program. It's more in the artistical world. But the knowledge is shared. So it is important to engage the green team, the creative team, sorry, the invitation letter induction. So that the leading team, the artists who are creating the production, become aware what to do. Engage the technical and workshop staff is important. It is important to develop their skills. So new methods of production, digital workflows. For example, scenic art with paints with volatile organic compounds. These are paints that have certain smells that are used as solvents. To use alternatives with a low amount of it in there. Knowledge sharing. Empower the people, not to do not impose problem solving. Say you must do. No, empower the people that you hear their proposals. Recognition is important. Let's say a technician finds a way to eliminate PVC from production, and there's a technician who has a new idea, has found something, celebrate it. Say, wow, it's great. This person found a new solution that we can make better sets, better items. The audience, very important. It's also one of the places where we in theaters can really make a difference. We share our journey publicly. We say, okay, like I said at the State Opera before, or other theaters, have on their websites, they communicate openly about projects, the progress and the challenges they encounter. For example, encourage low carbon travel. Just say, okay, some theaters offer tickets for the public transport system. With the ticket you have, it's like valid 2 hours before the performance and 3 hours after. This is a part, especially if the theaters are owned by the cities who operate also the public transport system. It becomes easier to put them in. Make sustainability visible in the venue. Show that you are. Show that you are green. For example, the paper you're printing on, or maybe you have no printed program at all. You just give a QR code that they can just have the program, so you don't need to have so much paper. And then the art itself, that's also important. To have it in the message that you convey. It's not all the time, but this could be a possibility. And then you have your stakeholders, your suppliers, contractual communication that you say, okay, you want to have, when you procure your materials, there should be, you know, the methods of transport, where you buy your materials. You know, you don't have to fly it halfway around the world. Maybe you can buy something locally. Partnerships and networks. You have neighboring institutions, renewable energy, etc. These are just some ideas, and they're not. It's not exhaustive. There could be a lot of ideas to think about. We have a mindset shift. And this is the, let's say, message. The mind shift. Mindset shift. We shall come from we should not see sustainability as an obligation, but more as an opportunity for the future. It invites new materials, new collaborations, and new aesthetic ideas. The mind shift takes us from perfection to progress. Often, when we hear sustainability, I'll never reach that. No, that's no way. It's not good. No, don't think to reach perfection. It will not be zero immediately. It is a progress. But it's something you have to follow. You have to say, okay, we will have to do this. We have to follow this every day. Moving towards a meaningful, taking meaningful steps, and to reach the goal, we will reach it. From an individual to a collective. It's not one person. No. It takes the organization, collaboration, communication, a network. And from short term to long term. You must think in cycles. In cycles, not only we do one great production per year, that's nice, thank you. Over the entire production sphere. This is just for the artistic management of the theaters, but nevertheless, who knows, maybe you come in that position one day. Think about it. Mindset shifts. We cannot change everything right away. In fact, some things might never change. Might never change. We have to be aware of that. But we can always make small improvements. We have to try. The mental attitude is the most important thing. It's the way we look at it, our attitude. We should embrace change and do everything. But we cannot find pointlessly. This is important, pointlessly against what cannot be changed. Some things, it might prove to be too difficult to fight against it. So your role starts now. In depth, you will hear more in learn more about it in the Inspire quiz. But the Performing Arts Center faces the climate emergency. But we also possess unique strengths. The unique strengths of the performing arts, where we are engaged in the field: creativity, collaboration. We can collaborate. It's not one person who can do a theater production, a performing arts production. It's not something we do at home. It has to be creative. You need emotional intelligence and the ability to imagine alternative futures. And these are exactly the capabilities that apply sustainability for the performing arts demands. And that is the message I would like to give to you when you become professionals in your field and further on. Do you have any discussion points here?
We were thinking about maybe our generation. Like
Yes.
we don't know a lot of stuff about this, but like I think for our generation it's different. Like we know since kindergarten how to do certain things to not like waste other stuff because
Yes.
I think when we were born, like climate change was a topic, just like in school, like during life. So I think for our generation, maybe it will be easier to start this type of changes.
Oh yes, it is high time. I mean, it's our generation that should be who should be promoting and helping to come in this area. Yes, I think it is important. It's already that, for example, like global warming, because it's so fresh, the Salzburg Festival, coming into that, which is they're doing a big major refurbishment of the building, and they're going into the mountain because they have no other place they can expand there. And they need a cooling system because the festival is in the summertime. And already it's this value is RCP called. It says that there's certain climate modules that are going to happen, and it will become much, much warmer. That's already known. So in the refurbishment, the cooling, so let me start this way. The cooling system is basically water coming from the mountains. In the past, in the summertime, the water had 17, 18 degrees, max 20 degrees. And now, and because the technicians and so are, I know that we like to go there, and you could put your beer in the cold water, and you had a nice cold beer. The temperature is going up. It's now it's more like 19 to 22 degrees in the summertime. This is mountain coming. This is water coming out of the mountain. It's a channel that goes. In Salzburg, it's a big mountain there, and it goes through the mountain. This channel, and then comes out on the other side. And they used it in the past to send goods like wood, logs. They were sent through this channel, and then they were picked out again. Today they use this cold water for the cooling system of the festival house. But because the experts, are saying the temperatures will rise, they have now a larger dimension for the cooling, for all the cooling systems in the house. The machines are kept a little bit smaller because we're not there yet. But they're thinking, the refurbishment for 2050, 2070, already for the next generation after that. And we'll have to put much larger machines into the cooling systems so that they still can perform in the summertime. So these are already aspects that have to be thought of because these effects are unavoidable. The 1.5 degree increase in the warming, that is already that's not going to happen. We are far higher. It's more 2.5, 2.8. Could be higher. The problem is the speed that it's happening. But there's also a lot of other items that are happening, like loss of biodiversity, loss of ecological spaces, etc. Land use. I mean, for example, in Austria, they're at 10 hectares or something like that per day. It's not a big country. We have a lot of mountains, so it's only the flat areas. And they build big shopping malls. There's like whole areas. They're not available for agriculture or for natural use. So these are all problems. I mean, also now this is off text again a bit, but for example, just to think about about our state of mind, the way we see the economy. We have the growth economy. So every year, the growth of the, it has to be a bit larger, +%. If it's not +%, if it's not plus major amount of percent, it's catastrophic. But this is a problem because what does it say? It says we need to use more, we need to sell more, we need to make more. It's more and more. It is an unhealthy economic state. That part, so we have to rethink that part. But then shareholders say, Unicredit, Banco Unicredit says, oh, catastrophic, we have to do something. Worst thing that they do is they start a war. So they, maybe just have to communicate these issues. But this is another part that goes outside of Inspire and outside of what the European program used to have. It's just a personal aspect. Basically, we are in the part introduction to Inspire. Do you want to take over?
We can make multilingual last part of the lesson.
Multilingual, we'll do that.
Sì, non farei una pausa, piuttosto finiamo qualche minuto prima, così. Allora, quello che ha spiegato Larry, diciamo che è cristallizzato in termini di contenuti, no? Sul tema della sostenibilità, quindi sostenibilità green come policy in generale e poi l'applicazione della sostenibilità al nostro settore, che è il settore del performing art. Ora, a parte questo aspetto di conoscenza, che può essere, se vogliamo, anche interpretato dal punto di vista puramente filosofico, esiste una concretezza che va a toccare il nostro lavoro. Vi faccio un esempio molto concreto. Allora, noi adesso stiamo concludendo 6 progetti PNRR molto grandi, quindi finanziati dall'Unione Europea. Progetti molto interessanti, ma con una burocrazia molto fitta. Allora, ogni fornitore che io ho dovuto scegliere per questo progetto, fosse un service tecnico, fosse un traduttore, fosse qualcuno che mi vendeva delle cose, doveva, oltre a fare un contratto con l'Accademia, che questo ovviamente è normale, firmare un'autocertificazione che è così definita DNSH, quindi do no significant harm, non creare danni significativi. Allora, questa adesso oggi è un'autocertificazione che viene richiesta, quindi io, titolare di un'azienda, io, professionista, dichiaro per me stesso di fare le cose in maniera ecologica, in maniera sostenibile. Oggi questo tema è autocertificato. In breve potrebbe invece richiedere una certificazione formale, ufficiale. Quindi questo progetto che diciamo sta a cappello, a ombrello della lezione che ha fatto Larry, è un progetto che ha cercato di anticipare in qualche modo i tempi. Cioè noi abbiamo preso in carico alcune competenze chiave innovative, o quantomeno emergenti, da un termine che è meglio, che sono la sostenibilità nelle produzioni dello spettacolo, che sono quelle di cui ha parlato Larry, più altre 3 che sono la digitalizzazione, che non significa imparare dei software, significa banalmente imparare a comunicare in maniera digitale in maniera appropriata. Allora faccio un esempio proprio cardine: tutt'oggi, dopo 30 anni di lavoro, io mando email a persone che hanno 30 anni di esperienza nel mondo del lavoro, mando a una persona in A e a 10 persone in CC, e questa persona risponde solo a me, dimenticandosi di CC. Quindi parliamo veramente dell'ABC della comunicazione digitale. Ecco, questi aspetti, la cosiddetta netiquette, cioè come comportarsi, lo sappiamo nella realtà di tutti i giorni, non sempre consideriamo che c'è un'etichetta, no? Un comportamento anche nel digitale. Questo aspetto è affrontato in un altro modulo di questo progetto che è Inspire. Gli ultimi 2 moduli sono sulla autoimprenditorialità, che come sappiamo è un tema molto importante per tutti noi che lavoriamo nello spettacolo, perché spesso e volentieri ci troviamo a lavorare da freelance e non da dipendenti, e le soft skills, quindi i rapporti all'interno di un team di lavoro, altra cosa per noi importantissima, perché quasi mai lavoriamo da soli. Maybe we can move to the next slide, because I remember that you summarized right.
Yes, I was just waiting, I was here.
Thank you.
So here, this is.
Ok, allora quindi adesso vi facciamo vedere dunque il progetto è al secondo di 3 anni. Il progetto Inspire mette insieme l'Accademia del Teatro alla Scala, l'Accademia OEHTG di Lerri, quindi Vienna, l'Università del Peloponneso di Atene, Opera Europa, quindi il network diciamo, più grande di istituzioni di spettacolo operistico in Europa, Pearl, che insomma diversi partner. Poi potete, questi che vi ho citato sono i più significativi. Step, che è l'organizzazione per cui lavora Chris Van Goethe, che abbiamo riconosciuto settimana scorsa. Questo partenariato ha creato un portale, un sito, che stiamo ancora implementando, ma che ha già un certo livello di avanzamento. All'interno del sito voi trovate una piattaforma, quindi vi potete linkare a questa piattaforma e acquisite uno user e una password, e entrando nella piattaforma gratuitamente al momento, per il 2026, vedremo negli anni successivi come manterremo il sito, quindi probabilmente immagino che ci potrà essere una fee in futuro, ma al momento è gratuita la cosa. Gratuitamente vi iscrivete alla piattaforma e potete accedere a questi 5 moduli didattici. Ora, ogni modulo didattico, questo è un elemento di interesse soprattutto per chi ancora studia, verosimilmente, porta un credito formativo che viene riconosciuto in automatico dalle istituzioni partner di progetto e pian piano amplierà questo tipo di riconoscimento. Ovviamente sono le cosiddette, per intenderci, materie a scelta dello studente, no? Che però permettono di avere non solo una frequenza certificata, ma anche una certificazione che poi è eventualmente spendibile. Cioè se un domani andate a proporre il vostro CV all'interno di un'azienda, all'interno di un service o a un teatro, un singolo, un privato cittadino che si occupa di produzione di spettacoli, eccetera, non solo proponete un curriculum che è basato sulle conoscenze dirette del vostro specifico settore, technical theater, costume, quel che sia, insomma, ma proponete anche una certificazione riconosciuta. C'è tra i partner c'è tra l'altro uno degli enti certificatori d'Europa più importanti, che è Quali, che ha messo il bollo tondo su questo programma, una certificazione riconosciuta e tradotta in crediti formativi, quindi esportabile in diverse accademie, rispetto a queste competenze specifiche. È inevitabile, allora, uno può frequentare tutti e 5 questi moduli, come può frequentare un solo modulo. Ogni modulo porta un credito. La frequenza del modulo è, come dire, stimata in 25 ore complessive. È una stima perché naturalmente se uno è veloce a leggere ci mette meno, se uno è un po' più lento ci mette un po' di più, però sono 25 ore di contenuti. Ora voi dovete pensare che questi contenuti sono stati scritti riga per riga in inglese. Quindi 25 ore di contenuti, voi immaginatevi che io incomincio a parlare per 25 ore, più o meno io vi leggo 1400 pagine, ok? Quindi sono 1400 pagine di documentazione per 5 moduli che sono stati scritti in lingua inglese, anche perché molta terminologia tecnica professionale è in lingua inglese, e poi sono stati tradotti tramite intelligenza artificiale e rivisti da un'intelligenza animale, cioè la mia. Quindi, solo che l'intelligenza animale può fallire. Quindi io vi dico, sono frequentabili in italiano i moduli, verosimilmente se uno vuole fare proprio il percorso pulito e anche più funzionale, si legge l'originale in inglese. Se non lo frequenta in italiano, riesce a seguire, ogni tanto legge qualche strafaccione, si ricorda della mia faccia, sorride e va oltre. Però può succedere, perché comunque è un lavoro di 3 anni, pilota, che andremo a migliorare poi nel tempo. Larry, what's the program? No, yes, thank you. So, can we see the bar with the index? Ah, ok, that's good.
Ma a prescindere dal credito,
Sì.
possiamo farlo anche noi.
Dovete, perché noi faremo
Per noi è
un
previsto già.
sì,
Ok.
assolutamente. Almeno uno lo sperimentiamo tutti in accademia, perché sì. Ecco, domanda interessante quella di Jessica, perché il programma non è concepito per gli studenti universitari, cioè questo servizio è concepito anche per chi già lavora, perché ovviamente il tema di doversi certificare in merito alla sostenibilità o alla digitalizzazione o altri argomenti è un tema che tocca voi come nuovi professionisti, ma tocca anche i professionisti che già lavorano in termini di aggiornamento. Quindi noi faremo promozione, tra virgolette, di questa gratuità, di questa offerta gratuita e formativa che oggi c'è, anche ad esempio tramite Doc Servizi, quindi una delle cooperative più grandi di tecnici di spettacolo e di lavoro a loro volta, come dire, diffondano ai loro associati un'opportunità di questo tipo. Cioè l'obiettivo è quello di riuscire a fare nel 2026 i proseliti più ampi, di modo che più professionisti possibili possano aggiornarsi gratuitamente rispetto a questa funzionalità. Allora, vedete che all'interno della piattaforma, a parte che potete scegliere la lingua, sono tedesco, inglese, spagnolo, francese, Dutch, quindi olandese, o fiammingo, insomma, e greco naturalmente perché l'Università del Peloponneso di Atene è il partner principale. Quindi voi accedete con la lingua, e you scroll down a bit, like this, avete un overview dei 5 moduli e cliccando su uno dei 5 moduli vi viene richiesto l'accesso alla piattaforma. Quindi adesso, ok, questo è il Digitalizing the Performing Arts Sector, quindi il modulo sulla digitalizzazione. Questo è quello che Accademia Scala ha curato in prima persona, in prima istituzione. Lei invece ha curato il modulo della sostenibilità delle produzioni, che è quello di cui vi ha parlato. Sostenibilità ecologica, quindi i principi generali sono stati curati da un partner spagnolo. Module 4, it was by the Greeks, yes.
Module 4 was by the group at Dimitra.
Autoimprenditorialità dai partner greci e soft skills, quindi lavoro di gruppo, gestione di risorse umane, eccetera, da PER, quindi Belgio. Sono recitati i learning outcome che guadagnate, tra virgolette, dalla frequenza di un corso, quindi sono esposti. There's still the whole one, the learning outcome. We have to, because now there's just 7, we summarize, we have to.
You must say to
Before the certification
Lydia.
process,
Lydia.
I have to say to Lydia. Scroll down, please. Thank you. Quindi qui vedete tutti i learning outcome che vengono erogati, cioè che vengono guadagnati tramite la frequenza. E poi, we can enter in the platform, lei?
Yep. In inglese.
Because we are in Europe at the moment.
Yeah, but it's only English exists.
No, I get it today. The Italian one was accessible.
It's already on the.
In the module 3, yes. We can check it later.
Okay, we'll check.
Ok, allora qui trovate.
No, I can change the language if you want, and then we
You
go
can.
to Italian. Because I didn't see it before. I was
Right.
looking. So language, I go to Italiano.
Okay, that's good.
Module 3 Italian. Yes, you're right. It's
Okay, that's good, that's
it's
good.
new.
Ok, that's fine.
Entra.
Allora, nella parte sulla sinistra vedete il menu, avete l'introduzione che ha eventuali annunci che possono essere fatti relativi al modulo, che ne so, una nuova release è stata prodotta, correzioni sull'unità, perché è un work in progress naturalmente, sono state apportate eccetera, e poi avete un forum di discussione. Il modulo si può frequentare autonomamente, però naturalmente ogni istituzione partner è un riferimento nel caso uno dica, caspita, qua c'è un errore, qua non riesco ad andare avanti, qua ho un problema, può contattare l'Accademia della Scala che tramite il provider che sta gestendo la piattaforma va a correggere il problema e ti manda avanti. Quindi la prima parte diciamo che è legata a questi aspetti più tecnici. Dopodiché entrando in module 3 avete tutto il corso. Questa è praticamente la lezione introduttiva, molti contenuti che abbiamo elaborato li abbiamo fatti tramite l'intelligenza artificiale, anche perché sennò farli, come dire, in studio sarebbe stato un lavoro di 30 anni, non di 3. Quindi avete contenuti formulati in maniera differente. Avete dei contenuti video, avete dei contenuti da leggere, avete dei link che vi portano a contenuti esterni in alcuni casi, perché ci sono delle policy che non aveva senso banalmente. Riferimenti dell'Unione Europea non aveva senso.
The second lesson does focus on the development of a digital.
Ok, i video rimangono in lingua inglese, le parti multimediali, diciamo, la parte testuale invece viene tradotta. You scroll a bit. Ok, continua. Ok, quindi qui avete ad esempio l'unità 1.1. Titolo, testo, uno scorre. Periodicamente nello svolgimento del modulo avete dei test intermedi che vi permettono di passare al livello successivo. Sono quasi tutti test a risposta multipla, questo anche per facilitare il controllo dell'operatività, insomma, che si rifanno a quanto è stato appena letto all'interno del contenuto. Al termine del modulo, allora ecco, in allegato al modulo ci sono le cosiddette project-based activities, che sono delle attività che uno studente può svolgere esternamente alla piattaforma, quindi sono degli input che vengono dati per svolgere esternamente alla piattaforma. Io immagino, noi abbiamo immaginato che siano contenuti che possono essere utilizzati da un docente che utilizza la piattaforma per fare lezione, che quindi possa utilizzare queste esercitazioni, questi input differenti in un contesto d'aula, e al termine di tutto quanto c'è un quiz conclusivo. The final quiz is 30 questions, something like that. It was longer than the other, no?
Yep, the final one. Yeah, but it still needs translation, I think.
I don't know if we can access directly. No? Okay. Okay, scroll down to see how many questions are.
20.
20, ok. Quindi lui fa 20 domande e sull'ultimo quiz si accede poi all'ultima parte che vi delibera. Qui invia la certificazione conclusiva del percorso. Quindi questo è un po' lo strumento che in questo momento abbiamo realizzato. Noi adesso nelle prossime settimane, adesso io sarò via per un paio di settimane, però ad aprile organizzeremo un incontro interno in Accademia con i coordinatori e i tutor dei corsi del vostro dipartimento palcoscenico e del dipartimento management principalmente. Coinvolgeremo anche il dipartimento danza per quello che riguarda il triennio e il biennio AFAM della danza, però cercheremo di fare innanzitutto una formazione interna per potervi anche comunicare ed assistere nel momento in cui qualcuno di voi scelga di acquisire questo tipo di strumento e inserirlo nel proprio curriculum accademico, fondamentalmente. Quindi diciamo che per noi la lezione di oggi era importante sì per sensibilizzare su un tema in cui, facendo autocritica come Accademia, ma anche come operatori del settore, facciamo fatica a strutturare. Cioè, giustamente tu dicevi, la sostenibilità è una cosa che a noi raccontano da quando siamo piccini, a noi no. A noi no, però siamo chiamati noi a trasferirla in qualche modo, no? Per questioni puramente generazionali. Infatti credo che anche nella lezione che abbiamo fatto insieme a inizio corso è una cosa che ho detto, cioè il vero cambio di mindset, come diceva Larry, rispetto all'approccio sostenibile avverrà nel momento in cui la vostra generazione sarà a fare lezione alla generazione che verrà. Probabilmente avete altri problemi con la generazione che verrà, questo è fuori di dubbio. Però di base questo è il principio. Quello che però volevamo trasmettere era un senso di concretezza maggiore, cioè non semplicemente fare la lezione sul tema della sostenibilità, sulla sostenibilità delle produzioni, cercare di dare degli input, cercare di sensibilizzare. È una cosa che avviene costantemente, che vi sentite entrare dalla finestra, da sotto lo spiffero della porta, ma che strutturare in un percorso organico e che dia una competenza concreta fino ad oggi era abbastanza complesso. Questo progetto, con tutte le zoppicature che può avere un progetto appena iniziato, pur funzionale e pur certificabile, è una prima risposta che noi abbiamo cercato di dare a questo tema. Tra l'altro il progetto Inspire lo stiamo presentando ovunque, cioè a conferenze internazionali, eccetera, quindi è conosciuto a livello europeo, è come dire, una flagship, è una nave con bandiera che porta avanti una tematica e l'Accademia della Scala è tra questi spingitori di navi che sta cercando di divulgare il verbo e lo strumento.
Volevo chiedere,
Prego.
visto che è sempre in progress, no?
Sì.
L'aggiornamento, è previsto quindi una review, nel senso che chi ha la certificazione deve rinnovare la certificazione come avviene?
No, in questo caso no. Allora, la review che noi contiamo di fare e che vorremmo arrivare a un 90% di perfezione entro la fine del 2026, per l'appunto si sviluppa sul 2026. Noi adesso cosa faremo? Si può già navigare la piattaforma, si può già frequentare i corsi, si può già avere una certificazione, però naturalmente non l'abbiamo ancora pubblicizzata all'eterno mondo, esattamente. Quindi noi in questo momento stiamo pubblicizzando la cosa all'interno delle nostre istituzioni, partendo dai formatori e dagli studenti che frequentano questi appuntamenti fondamentalmente, di modo che ci possa già essere qualcuno che incomincia a metterci la mano, quindi andiamo per gradi. Dopodiché abbiamo una fase che va fino a giugno, che è cosiddetta definita pilot, per cui noi contiamo di avere almeno 40 utenti che accedono alla piattaforma e che arrivano in fondo almeno a un modulo, dando dei feedback. E al termine di questa prima fase, che contiamo di chiudere verso giugno, raccoglieremo i feedback, correggeremo aspetti puramente formali della piattaforma, perché il contenuto è lì, il processo è lì, la certificazione è lì. Cioè, però, che ne so, è saltata una frase, c'è un test che sono sicuro che questa è la risposta giusta, invece me la dà sbagliata. Cioè tutti questi aspetti, immaginatevi quante così zoppicamenti ci possono essere in 1200 pagine di contenuti, tra l'altro che sono stati presi da un tecnico informatico, no, non da me, da un tecnico informatico che li ha buttati dentro una piattaforma, un pezzo alla volta. A volte nel prendere il panno sporco si dimentica quello nero, prende quello bianco e lo lascia dentro, no? Immaginate questo tipo di... Quindi questi primi 40 contiamo di farli entro giugno e di avere dei feedback. Poi ne avremo una seconda partita, quindi di 40 studenti e lavoratori dello spettacolo per ogni paese, sto parlando, quindi parlo solo dell'Italia in questo momento, che accederanno, che daranno ulteriori feedback e dopodiché contiamo a dicembre di avere uno strumento che sia ben fatto anche da un punto di vista formale. Tra l'altro all'interno del progetto abbiamo anche un paio di opportunità di cui sentirete ancora parlare come studenti del Dipartimento Palcoscenico, perché organizzeremo 2 visite studio a istituzioni che sono legate a queste tematiche. In particolare una che vi posso già anticipare, che neanche Jack e Jessica sanno perché non gliel'ho ancora detto, però faremo in modo di organizzare verosimilmente verso giugno una visita, immagino con i vostri corsi, alla cittadella degli archivi del Comune di Milano. Non so se conoscete, è un posto meraviglioso in cui sono archiviati praticamente i beni storici e culturali della città di Milano, quindi parliamo di tutti gli ambiti, parliamo dall'urbanistica alla storia, materiali della Scala, in come dire, ambiente tecnologico veramente straordinario, tutto robotizzato, insomma sarà una specie di Gardaland dell'archivistica, non so come dire. Quindi andremo lì sicuramente con un gruppo, adesso vedremo con Jessica e Jacopo quali corsi specificamente coinvolgere, ma suppongo che il vostro ci casca. No, è un'altra cosa che faremo, però in quel caso credo che andremo tramite bando, perché credo di avere solo 2 posti disponibili. Sarà una visita studio a Bruxelles al Rift University, quindi alla scuola di Chris, verosimilmente sarà. Quello lo faremo probabilmente verso l'autunno, però questi sono 2 aspetti che così contemplati dal progetto Inspire. Naturalmente se uno, come dire, acquisisce una certificazione sul modulo ha anche maggiori carte da giocarsi nel momento in cui faccio uscire un bando. Ecco, non è un ricatto, però è un messaggio. È un messaggio.
Passeremo le notti.
No, poi chiaramente la sensibilità di ciascuno porta su un tema specifico e nulla toglie che parto dal tema della sostenibilità delle produzioni perché è quello che sento più vicino al percorso di studi che sto facendo e poi dico perché no, seguo un secondo modulo, però è normale che ognuno può avere una sensibilità, che ne so, magari c'è qualcuno di voi che è ossessionato dal pensiero dell'autoimprenditorialità, da come vendersi, da come gestirsi, da come inserirsi in un contesto lavorativo e frequenta quel modulo, cioè non è un modulo vale l'altro da un punto di vista formale, ecco. Poi dopodiché ovviamente i contenuti sono diversi, ogni modulo è un credito, li faccio tutti sul ciclo di credito, questo sempre per non parlare di ricatti. Va bene. Allora, messaggi, domande, curiosità? We have some information that I skipped from your presentation, the last slides. No, that's good.
No, basically we went into the production.
Okay.
Switch to the slides. Here, this was the slide here. Then this one, the modules. Then we had the structure of the modules.
Okay. Just facciamo solamente un summary di. Can you go back for one slide? Just make a final summary of everything, or you want.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Ok, allora qui abbiamo i 5 moduli, giusto per fare un recap. Sostenibilità in genere nel modulo 1, sostenibilità nelle produzioni nel modulo 2, digitalizzazione il 3, entrepreneurial skills, quindi autoimprenditorialità il 4 e poi essential people management e resilience skills, questa è la definizione che gli abbiamo dato. Ripeto, non è gestione delle risorse umane, cioè non divento un responsabile delle risorse umane, cioè imparo o acquisisco conoscenze rispetto a come relazionarmi in un contesto lavorativo e di gruppo. Ok, the next one, thank you. Quindi 5 moduli chiave, ogni modulo più o meno è strutturato in 7-8 lezioni. Okay? Le lezioni sono costruite in unità, quindi è tutto molto conseguenziale, molto matematico, e poi vabbè, ovviamente ci sono i componenti di base di ogni unità. Questa è giusto, diciamo, la struttura didattica formativa. Ok, next one.
C'è un limite di volte entro cui puoi fare il test finale? Cioè, tipo io...
That's a good question.
How often?
She's asking if you have several attempts for the
Yeah,
final
I
test.
think it's 2 or 3 attempts.
Ok. O 2 o 3. Ma non sai che sono 2 o 3.
It says it on the. Just a second. Wait a second. Wait a
Wait,
second.
wait, there is.
Immediately. Voto più alto tenta le quiz metodo di valutazione.
You can imagine the answer at the second attempt.
Per account.
Eh?
Per account.
Per
Quindi
account.
si registra
Sì.
come-
Vabbè, adesso non è che dobbiamo fare gli italiani che
I understood that one.
gli italiani che appena c'è un ostacolo trovano il modo. Ah, ma io ho 3 mail, allora io ho 3 account.
You enter with a different account. It's I don't know if you work with this online. It's Moodle. It basically follows the Moodle account system. I don't know if you use it here in the Accademia.
Ma Moodle lo usiamo noi?
Moodle.
No.
No.
Okay, it's basically Moodle. A lot of courses are done in this, and university, but also school courses. And yes, you come in with a second. But it's not so difficult if you have followed it.
No.
Here, for example, the eco-design and the performing arts. It's for what are the following? It's multiple choice, so you have multiple answers. So it's almost logic. Using the most expensive materials available is not necessarily eco-design, and prioritizing single-use components. I think you can answer this question today.
We have to be self-critical. I mean, the limits of Inspire maybe could be that it's based on knowledge and not on skills. I mean, we are not actually implementing on the field what we are learning on the platform. It is possible. I mean, if there is a trainer that takes the Inspire contents and translate the contents in something which happens in a classroom, in a workshop, in a theater, so it becomes something delivering also skills. As soon as you do it online, it remains on the knowledge level. So that's why Larry is saying that it's quite easy to answer the questions in the moment that you have been following all the knowledge processes.
Right.
So this is actually the pros and cons of having a knowledge-based platform and not getting into the workshop or laboratory or class situation in which you have also to improve practically. Voglio dire, se siete, voi avete fatto lezione con Peter Bassi o no? L'anno prossimo?
No, l'anno prossimo.
L'anno prossimo farete lezione con Peter Bassi, che non è particolarmente virtual learning platform, però quando vi fa mettere il tappeto danza su un palcoscenico, ecco che è un'operazione estremamente pratica, estremamente manuale. Se c'è una gobbetta, non è che hai detto ho scritto B e invece era C, no, è una gobbetta e torni da capo, no? Non so come dire, perché lì è per applicazione manuale di una competenza, anche se è una competenza molto basic, cioè stendere un tappeto danza. Qui siamo a un livello di conoscenza, a un livello di sensibilizzazione, a un livello di acquisizione di elementi teorici che poi naturalmente andate a riversare nella vostra professione, ma che non vi vengono provati qui. Quindi qui avete una prova sul livello di conoscenza.
Skills come through practice.
Yes, that's it.
It's very simple. And it's difficult to do that with a. I mean, a little bit we try to emulate it here with the project-based activities.
Yes.
Say a little bit, because also there you construct use cases. It was a little bit difficult when we were doing that, to be honest.
Yes.
This is now the Italian one I'm just trying to see. So what we try to do is make a reflection of certain cases we have invented. We explain. So here we just have a little bit of exercise. This is sort of a warm-up. It's a matching. These are matching exercises. I cannot read construction of the set. So I don't know. Is this piano? I don't know.
Wow.
Yes, it matches.
And
I could. Yeah, I was just trying
you
to.
even don't know the language, so
Yes, exactly.
quindi è facilissimo poi vedere.
I know the difference between Carlo and Fredo with the water because
That's it.
from the hotel rooms and from Italian thing. So you have these exercises, progettazione, illumine tecnica. I think this would fit together. So let's see, top. So that gets easier. Basically, yeah, then let's see. So this is just exercises that you can do. Wait a second, let me see. Ah, no, I didn't want to leave the page. I wanted to stay in the exercise here. Sorry. I was just trying to figure out the next two. But we can continue here without filling out. And then we have here an exercise. It's a little bit of an introduction text. It explains. And then I have, I don't know, who was that? It was Jim or Bill, who's the set designer who is creating a project, and it goes on a bit that you have to look at some of his objectives. And at the end, we constructed a little bit like an open course, an open end. You have to think yourself, how do I react if I was this person who had the objectives?
Quello che sto facendo vedere sono le project-based activity, cioè quindi quella parte extra modulo che eventualmente uno guarda al termine della frequenza di tutto il modulo e che danno degli spunti a chi apprende, ma soprattutto a dare degli spunti ai docenti, devo dire, cioè perché un docente eventualmente può prendere questo esercizio, applicarlo in una classe, sottoporlo e farlo suo. Questo è poi
Redefine the qualità del design, redefine the quality of the design. So here you have some interactive elements where you have to look inside and see how this is set up. This is in the Italian version. I'm trying to
cheat you with this. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's good. It's good. It's good. I have a remark on it. I saw something right in the beginning.
Okay.
No, in the beginning, in the first place. So and then here, sorry, at the end. How can I go back? Yeah, I think you can go back one step. So uno eco design. And then here at the end, I think there is like a question where you have to think about how to do something. Is that correct?
Yes.
Am I reading it correct?
Yeah.
This would work perfect if you work together on the course, you know? I mean, a lot of the online courses, and that's a problem that even during the Corona times, when everything was in lockdown, we never did any, in our academy, we didn't do any online courses because it's important to have people together. It's a networking. With some of the problem with a lot of the online courses, everybody's working in their own little corner at home in a computer somewhere remote. You know, they're very autistic, the people then. It would be interesting to do this together, these exercises. You know, when you think about how do you go about, how do you discuss it? Because the real skill happens outside of the classroom when you're working here in this outfit. You know, when you have to talk with the real people. When you're talking with the carpenter who is making the things, or the painter who's painting the items, when you have a real production and the production is going on the stage, you have the technicians, the artists, the stage management, the directors, the financial people, and then you have the artists come in. You know, that again makes it more difficult. So that is where you gain the skill. You know, theory is very good. And that sometimes I know, discussion with Chris, everything can be done in the school in 3,000 hours. No, the reality is in the real life. And it takes years of practice, experience, gaining experience through your trajectory when you are growing into this world. Though, you know, in German we say, es ist noch nie ein Meister vom Himmel gefallen, it's in German. There's no master who has fallen from the sky. They never dropped out of the sky. You know, you grow in the profession. And this is something also very important, I think, in the module 5 for the soft skill. It's lifelong learning. Never stop learning. You can never stop learning. Now, I mean, as I said in the beginning, you were not here yet. 40 years in this field. Every time you hear something new, you gather new experiences, and you learn new items that you can use, and you become better through cooperation with your peers, with the people, with, you know, with your environment. grow. So you're not perfect when you finish here. You grow along the line. Pick up items. Sometimes you don't need it today. You need it tomorrow. You never know. But just get as much as you can. Get it inside. Okay, sorry.
So let's give our thanks to Larry and beg our pardon for being late.